point of view the Bible takes is the point of view of who? Of the Hebrews, a.k.a. also known as the brick makers. Building pyramids they are. Pyramids, some kind of monument to some pharaoh somewhere. Good thing powerful people don't build big monuments to their egos today, hey? Doesn't happen today. Anyway, I'm sure it's all very well and good because it creates jobs and it attracts foreign capital and all of that, but in any case, this story takes the point of view of the Brickmakers Union. Brickmakers Union. Now, you don't say brickmakers, do you? You say brickies. Brickies. So this is the perspective of the Brickies Union. And they're building these big buildings, and their wages are pretty low. And they're whinging about it. And the book of Exodus tells us that God heard their whinging. You Australians, you have such a good language. It's so much better than our language. Oh, man. Whinging. God heard their whinging and did something about it, and this begins the historical project of a creation of my people out of Egypt. Getting the hell out of Dodge, we call it in the West. Moses raised up, gets the people the hell out of Dodge. People become a people, and the rest of Torah, Leviticus, third book, don't ever make that mistake, third book of Torah. Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy are all about how we live as a people now as a free people. Because the plot line of the story of Exodus is you're either headed out of Egypt or you're headed back into Egypt. You remember? The people are on their way out of Melbourne and they've gotten to, say, Shepparton. And they started to get hungry. Yeah, they start to get hungry, don't they? Right. And what do they want to do? No, see, they don't want to stop at the deli. They want to go back to Melbourne because, see, you can't get those really cool croissants out here in Shepparton. You can't get that really fine cuisine out here in the regional centers. You can get McDonald's thanks to my people. The point is, we can get 3 square meals a day in Egypt, and maybe it's better to be a slave so we can eat the kind of food we want. That's the slave mentality. You see, it is much easier to get the people out of Egypt than it is to get Egypt out of the people. It's the slave mentality. And so we're out here at Shepparton, but we're pining for Melbourne. And we could, if we look, get up high enough hill, we can still see those gleaming buildings. So maybe it wasn't so bad back there building those big monuments. Because we can't get that espresso just right out here. Hope I'm not offending anybody. I'm sure you have great espresso bars here. I'm just telling a little story here, all right? Yeah, so they want to go back. Those are called what in the wilderness? Those moments. The people are being tempted, that's right. So you know the story. These are the temptations in the wilderness. And a temptation is we are headed out, and the temptation is to turn back and go back in. You're either on your way out or on your way back. So that if the people in these books, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, if the people do not play according to the rules of a free people, if they do not live according to the covenant, the contract with God and with each other, they will follow other gods. Guess where all the other gods are headed? You see, that's what the biblical motif of the other gods is all about. The other gods are all gods owned and operated by Egypt Incorporated. You see, because in antiquity, in real traditional societies, the gods, small g, were put at the service of the imperial project. So all those other gods are headed to Egypt. Egypt is where it's happening, man. Egypt is where bigger is better and more beautiful. Egypt is what's piped through the box into my home. Egypt is what I listen to on the radio. Egypt is what is on the billboard. Egypt is the big, centralized, urban, glitzy culture. of power and beauty and fashion. And Grand Prix. Oh, I've got to have a race. Got to have a circus. And Grand Prix, sure. Only Yahweh is headed out of it. And so the people are constantly tempted to follow other gods. That is, to turn around and go back to where they came from. That is, to become slaves again. Of course, there's one other possibility, one other problematic possibility, and that is the people will keep heading out of Egypt, but at some point they will settle down and they will start constructing their society, and they will end up constructing a society just like Egypt. And those are the two errors of the people of God. To either go back to slavery or to continue to act like slaves and to build a society that enslaves. Which is why you get texts like this book of Leviticus, third book of Torah. Long drive, long lecture tour, what can I say? Leviticus 25. Just in case you forgot the thread of the argument, we're trying to figure out how we're going to get this bumper crop. All right, that's the nice thing about the biblical story. It's not simple, and it's not simplistic. It's not complicated, but it's interesting. It takes you on a lot of interesting journeys. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to get this bumper crop anyway. Somebody who feels like reading here, Leviticus 25. Let's go ahead and read beginning in verse 1, now that we've all finally found Leviticus 25, because you were all looking in the second book of the Bible and you couldn't find that. I couldn't either. All right. And we'll read down through verse 13. Somebody who wants to stand up, got a good loud voice for the cameraman. Leviticus 25, 1 through 13. Somebody? Come on. Only got 10 minutes here before lunch. Very good. Thank you. Now, go ahead.
God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai.
Okay. I'm going to keep interrupting, so get used to it. This is Mount Sinai, folks. This is important. All right? This is not marginal tradition. This is not an afterthought. This is Sinai. This is at the heart of the deal. Okay.
And commanded him to give the following regulations to the people of Israel. When you enter the land that the Lord is giving you, you shall honor the Lord by not cultivating the land every 7th year. You shall sow your fields, prune your vineyards, and gather your crops for 6 years. But the 7th year is to be a year of complete rest for the land, a year dedicated to the Lord. Do not sow your fields or prune your vineyards. Do not even harvest the corn that grows by itself without being sown, and do not gather the grapes from your unpruned vines. It is a year of complete rest for the land. Although the land has not been cultivated during that year, it will provide food for you, your slaves, your hired men, the foreigners living with you, your domestic animals and the wild animals in your fields. Everything that it produces may be eaten.
Rule number 1, Sabbath. The point of Sabbath is to let the land rest. Now that could be a very good ecological principle that agriculturalists have tried to learn through the history of civilization. Don't wear out the land. And I believe there is a real ecological sensibility. But the justification for letting the land rest is deeper than that. It is to remind all concerned, animals, people, productive mechanisms, that the earth belongs to who? The earth belongs to Yahweh.